Let's dive in. Today we're taking a deep dive into something pretty crucial. Turkey's national cybersecurity strategy.
Yeah, their new one for 2024 to 2028.
Now, I know cybersecurity strategy might sound a little,
A
dry.
little bureaucratic, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. But trust me, this is important stuff. It's basically a roadmap for how a country is preparing for the future. The digital future, that is.
And we're not just talking about protecting computers. This is about national security.
Yeah, the whole shebang. And this is relevant whether you're into global politics, technology, you name it.
Absolutely. And for this deep dive, we're going really in depth with the forward and intro sections of the strategy document itself.
The official one.
Right. It's called the AIPA Ulusal Siber Güvenlik Stratejisi 2024-2028-27.pdf.
Catchy title.
Yeah.
So what's the big picture here? What's Turkey's overall ambition when it comes to cybersecurity?
Well, they're aiming high. Both President Erdogan and Minister Erlulu, in their opening remarks, talk about a secure Turkey century.
Secure Turkey century. I like the sound of that.
Yeah, it's this idea that technological advancement and robust cybersecurity, those are the foundations for their future, their success.
So they're not just trying to keep up, they're trying to be a leader in the tech world.
Exactly. They want to be at the forefront. They're not content with just using technology. They want to be creating it.
Producing it.
Yeah, and exporting it. Think about it. There are more than 5 billion people online globally. That's as of 2023. It's a massive market, and Turkey wants to be a major player.
To be a producer, not just a consumer. That's interesting.
And they've actually been ahead of the curve in some ways. They were one of the first countries to establish a national cybersecurity strategy and framework.
Oh, really? So they've been thinking about this for a while now.
Yeah, for a while. So they're not starting from scratch. This new strategy builds on that foundation, but it also addresses some pressing new challenges.
Which brings us to the cyber landscape itself. What kind of threats is Turkey facing, and how is this strategy responding to them?
Well, think of it this way. The internet is now the backbone of our world. Everything is connected. But that connectivity also creates vulnerability.
More points of attack.
Exactly. And the threats are becoming more sophisticated, more frequent, and more dangerous.
Yeah, you see stories in the news all the time about cyber attacks and data breaches.
And it's not just about stolen data anymore. We're talking about attacks on critical infrastructure.
Like power grids, transportation systems.
Yeah, exactly. Hospitals, financial institutions. Imagine the chaos if those systems were compromised.
That's a pretty scary thought.
It is, and that's why cybersecurity is no longer just a technical issue. It's a national security issue, even an international security issue.
Because these threats can come from anywhere.
And they can have global consequences. To give you an idea of the scale of this problem, the estimated global cost of cybercrime in 2024 is $9.5 trillion US.
9.5 trillion. That's an astronomical number.
It is. It underscores just how high the stakes are. So in this context, Turkey's strategy is really about building up its defenses, its resilience.
So how are they planning to do that? What's their approach?
Well, they've outlined a multi-layered strategy with 6 key strategic objectives. And what's interesting is that it's not just about technology, it's about people, collaboration, and a proactive mindset.
So it's a holistic approach.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Let's break down those 6 objectives, starting with the first one. What's the foundation of their strategy?
They call it cyber resilience. And it's about making those crucial systems, the critical infrastructure, as impenetrable as possible.
So hardening those targets, making them more difficult to attack.
Exactly. They're talking about robust risk management, vulnerability assessments, the whole 9 yards. They want to make sure those systems can withstand even the most sophisticated cyber attacks.
So it's about being prepared for the worst. But I imagine it's not just about playing defense, right?
Right. They're also taking a more proactive stance. Their second objective is called proactive cyber defense and deterrence. It's about anticipating threats, preventing them, and making it clear that cyber attacks against Turkey will have consequences.
So it's about having a strong deterrent.
Exactly. And they're approaching this on multiple fronts.
Multiple fronts. Okay, give me an example.
Well, on the technological side, they're investing heavily in advanced threat detection tools.
Like AI-powered systems that can spot suspicious activity.
Yeah, think of it like having a really smart security guard constantly monitoring your networks. But they're also strengthening their cybercrime laws and working to improve international cooperation.
Because cybercriminals don't respect national borders.
Exactly. So you need a coordinated global effort to track them down and hold them accountable.
It's like a global game of cat and mouse, But the stakes are incredibly high.
Very high. And that brings us to the often overlooked but absolutely critical piece of the puzzle, the human element.
Right, because even with the best technology, a single click on a phishing link can compromise everything.
Exactly. And that's why they've dedicated a whole objective to a human-centric cybersecurity approach. It's about recognizing that people are both the biggest vulnerability and the strongest asset in cybersecurity.
So how are they addressing this human element?
It's multifaceted. They're talking about integrating cybersecurity into school curricula, starting from primary school all the way up to university.
Wow, so they're really starting young.
They are. The idea is to build that awareness from a young age so that cybersecurity becomes second nature. They're also planning public awareness campaigns to educate the general public about online threats and how to stay safe.
So it's about empowering individuals to protect themselves. But it's not just about individual responsibility, right? Organizations also have a role to play.
Absolutely. They're encouraging businesses to implement strong cybersecurity policies, train their employees. They're trying to create a culture of cybersecurity in all sectors of society.
It's a top-down and bottom-up approach, tackling the human element from all angles. Fascinating stuff.
It is, and it's particularly relevant given the rapid pace of technological advancement, which leads us to their fourth objective.
Okay, lay it on me. What's the next layer of this cyber strategy?
They call it secure use of technology. And it's all about addressing the challenges and opportunities presented by emerging technologies. You know, things like artificial intelligence, blockchain, 5G.
Right, those technologies have the potential to revolutionize everything.
Yeah.
But they also introduce new risks.
Exactly. And that's why they're advocating for what's called security by design.
Can you refresh my memory on what that means? We touched on it earlier, but it's such a crucial concept.
Sure. Security by design is about building security considerations into technology from the ground up, not as an afterthought. It's about anticipating potential vulnerabilities and addressing them in the design phase itself. It's
like building a house with earthquake-resistant foundations from the start.
perfect analogy, rather than trying to reinforce it later when it's already built. So if you're designing a self-driving car, for example, you'd be thinking about how to protect it from hackers from day one. You'd be building in layers of security, redundancy systems, all kinds of safeguards to make it as resilient as possible.
That's a really interesting approach. So it's about proactively addressing those risks before they even become a problem.
Exactly. And they want to apply that security by design principle to all these emerging technologies.
Ambitious. But are they relying solely on other countries for all of this technology? Or do they have their own plans for innovation?
That's where things get even more interesting. Their fifth objective focuses on indigenous and national technologies in the fight against cyber threats.
So they're not content with just adopting foreign technologies. They want to develop their own solutions.
Precisely. They're investing heavily in research and development, trying to foster a homegrown cybersecurity industry.
Wow. So it's about becoming more self-sufficient in the cyber realm.
It is. And it's a smart move for several reasons. First, it reduces their reliance on foreign tech, which can be vulnerable to supply chain disruptions or even espionage. Second, it allows them to tailor solutions to their specific needs and context.
Yeah.
And third, it has the potential to boost their economy and create jobs.
So it's a strategic move on multiple levels.
Absolutely, and it could have ripple effects across the region, inspiring other countries to follow suit. But it's not just about going it alone.
Right, because cyber threats are a global problem.
Exactly. And that's where their sixth and final objective comes in. Turkey as a brand in the international arena. They want to be seen as a global leader in cybersecurity, sharing knowledge, building partnerships, and working collaboratively to address these shared challenges.
So it's about being a responsible global citizen in cyberspace.
Precisely. They want to be a bridge builder, fostering dialogue and cooperation on this critical issue.
So we've got strong defenses, proactive measures, a focus on people, a commitment to developing their own technology, and a desire to collaborate internationally. It's a pretty comprehensive vision.
It is, but of course the real test is in the implementation. How will they translate these objectives into concrete actions? What are the potential challenges they might face? And what are the broader implications for Turkey and the world?
Those are the questions we'll be exploring in the next part of our deep dive.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we've got the big picture, the overarching vision, but how do they actually plan to put all this into action? Let's get into the specifics.
Yeah, let's dive into the nitty-gritty of the implementation. And the Turkish strategy document actually does a good job of that.
Oh, good.
Yeah, it doesn't just lay out these big goals, it gets into the how-tos. So let's start with that first objective, cyber resilience.
Right, the foundation.
The digital fortress.
Yeah, making sure those critical systems, energy grids, transportation networks, all that stuff can withstand a cyber attack.
And they're really laser focused on critical infrastructure. They call out things like energy, transportation, finance, healthcare, all the systems that are essential for a nation to function.
The backbone of society.
Exactly. And they're not messing around when it comes to protecting these systems. They're calling for rigorous risk assessments, vulnerability testing, strong incident response plans.
So they're thinking ahead,
Yeah.
anticipating potential problems.
Right, and not just reacting after the fact. They even want to establish national standards for cybersecurity across all these critical sectors.
Oh, interesting. So it's like setting a high bar for security across the board.
Yeah, making sure everyone's playing by the same rules.
Makes sense. Okay, what about the second objective? Proactive cyber defense and deterrence. I'm curious with that one.
That's where they're taking a more offensive approach. It's not just about building walls, it's about having a strong deterrent, making it clear that there will be consequences for cyber attacks against Turkey.
Sending a message.
Yeah, exactly. Don't even think about it. And they're doing this in a multifaceted way. On the tech side, they're investing heavily in things like AI-powered threat detection systems.
So they're bringing in the big guns, technologically speaking.
They are. These systems can analyze massive amounts of data to spot suspicious activity, patterns that might indicate an impending attack.
Oh, wow. So it's like having a super smart security guard that can see things humans might miss.
Right, and they're constantly learning and adapting. But it's not just about technology. They're also looking at the legal side of things.
Right, because laws need to keep up with technology.
Absolutely. They're strengthening their cybercrime laws, making sure they have the tools to prosecute cyber criminals. And they're working to improve international cooperation because
These guys don't respect borders.
exactly. A cyber criminal in one country can easily attack a target in another, so you need that global cooperation to track them down, share information, and bring them to justice.
It's like a global game of cyber cops and robbers.
Yeah, but with much higher stakes.
Okay, and we talked earlier about how technology alone isn't enough. What are they doing about that human element?
That's where the third objective comes in, that human-centric cybersecurity approach. They're really emphasizing the importance of building a culture of cybersecurity from the ground up.
Right, because even with the best technology, one wrong click can undo everything.
Exactly. So they're starting young. They plan to integrate cybersecurity into school curriculums, starting all the way back in primary school.
Wow. So kids will be learning about online safety from a very early age.
Yeah, it'll become second nature to them. And for the general public, they're talking about awareness campaigns, educating people about phishing scams, strong passwords, all the basics of staying safe online.
Because a lot of people still don't know about that stuff.
They don't. And it's not just about individuals. They also want to build a strong cybersecurity culture within organizations, both public and private.
So companies need to be proactive too.
Absolutely. Encouraging them to train their employees, have clear cybersecurity policies in place. It's about creating this whole ecosystem where everyone is aware of the risks and taking steps to mitigate them.
A collective effort.
And it's essential, especially when you consider how rapidly technology is changing.
Right. Which brings us to their fourth objective.
Secure use of technology.
This is where all those exciting new technologies come in, right?
Yeah.
AI, blockchain.
All of that. And they know that these technologies can be a double-edged sword. They offer huge benefits, but they also introduce new vulnerabilities. That's why their focus on security by design is so crucial.
Okay, remind me again what security by design means in practice. I'm still wrapping my head around it.
Sure. Think of it this way. Instead of adding security features as an afterthought, you're baking them into the very core of a technology right from the start. It's like instead of building a house and then realizing, oops, we forgot to make it earthquake-proof, you're building it with earthquake-resistant foundations from the get-go.
Yeah, like it's in the DNA of the technology.
Exactly. So if you're developing a self-driving car, for example, you'd be thinking about how to protect it from hackers trying to take control right from the design stage. You'd be building in all sorts of safeguards, redundancy systems, layers of security. And Turkey wants to apply that security by design principle to everything, from AI systems to 5G networks.
That's really forward-thinking. But can they really do all this alone? Don't they need to work with other countries, especially when it comes to these emerging technologies?
That's a great question, and it leads us right into their fifth objective, indigenous and national technologies. This is where things get really interesting. They're not just focused on adopting and adapting foreign technologies. They want to develop their own.
So it's about becoming self-sufficient in the cyber realm.
You could say that. They're investing heavily in research and development, trying to foster their own cybersecurity industry. And there are several reasons for this. Part of it is about reducing their reliance on foreign tech, having more control over their own destiny in cyberspace.
Yeah, not being dependent on other countries.
Exactly. But it's also about creating jobs, boosting their economy, and potentially even becoming a global player in the cybersecurity market themselves.
Wow, so it's a strategic move on multiple levels. It's about national security, economic development, and maybe even global influence.
Right, it's a bold move. But of course, it's not just about going it alone. Cybersecurity is a global issue that requires global cooperation.
Which brings us to their final objective.
Turkey, as a brand in the international arena. They want to be seen as a leader in cybersecurity, a country that other nations look to for guidance and partnership.
So it's not just about protecting themselves, it's about contributing to a more secure world.
Exactly. They're talking about sharing knowledge, best practices, working within international organizations to establish norms and standards for responsible state behavior in cyberspace.
That's a big goal. But the cyber world is so complex with so many competing interests. How do they navigate that?
It's a challenge for sure, but I think their emphasis on dialogue and cooperation is a good starting point. They're trying to position themselves as a bridge builder, a country that can bring different actors together to address these shared challenges.
So it's about finding common ground, building trust.
Exactly. But of course, it's easier said than done. There are bound to be challenges, both domestically and internationally. And those challenges, along with the broader implications of Turkey's cybersecurity strategy, are exactly what we'll be exploring in the final part of our deep dive.
So we've talked about Turkey's ambitious vision for cybersecurity. They've laid out a pretty comprehensive strategy. But I imagine there are always challenges when it comes to actually implementing these kinds of plans.
Right.
What are some of the potential roadblocks they might face?
Yeah, no plan is perfect.
Right.
And in the world of cybersecurity, things change so quickly. One of the biggest challenges for any country, not just Turkey, is just keeping up with the pace of technological change.
It's a constantly moving target.
Exactly. What's cutting edge today might be obsolete tomorrow. So you need to be flexible, adaptable. That's why it's interesting that the Turkish strategy document emphasizes its iterative nature.
Oh, yeah, and you mentioned that.
They're acknowledging that they need to be able to adjust their plans as the threat landscape evolves.
So it's not about setting everything in stone. It's more about having a framework that can evolve.
Yeah, more like a living document that can be updated.
Okay, that makes sense. But what about the human side of things? We've talked about how important that is. Are there any challenges there?
Oh, absolutely. Think about the scale of what they're trying to achieve. This whole of society approach they're talking about, it involves getting everyone on board, from school children to government agencies to businesses. That's a lot of moving parts.
A lot of coordination, a lot of people to train.
Exactly. And it's not just about getting people to buy in, it's about building capacity. Do they have enough skilled cybersecurity professionals to implement these plans? Can they provide the necessary training and resources to all these different stakeholders? Those are big questions.
So even if the vision is there, the practicalities of execution can be tricky. And what about the international landscape? We talked about Turkey's goal of becoming a global leader in cybersecurity. Do you think that will be welcomed by everyone?
That's a great point. Geopolitics definitely plays a role here. Some countries might see Turkey's proactive stance, particularly their emphasis on developing their own cybersecurity technologies, as a potential threat.
A challenge to their own dominance, maybe?
Right, and that could lead to competition instead of collaboration. There's always a risk of a cybersecurity arms race where countries are more focused on one-upping each other than working together.
Which wouldn't be good for anyone.
Not at all. But I think Turkey also has an opportunity here to build bridges, to position themselves as a leader in responsible state behavior in cyberspace.
So maybe they can use this to foster more cooperation, more dialogue.
Exactly. But it's a delicate balancing act for sure.
And in the end, it all comes back to people, doesn't it? No matter how good the technology is, human error is still a factor.
It's always the weakest link.
So it's about more than just teaching people about passwords and software updates. It's about creating a culture of awareness, of vigilance, of thinking critically about online security.
Yeah, and that's something we all need to be doing more of.
Absolutely. We've only scratched the surface of this topic, but hopefully this deep dive has given our listeners a better understanding of what's at stake. Turkey's national cybersecurity strategy is a really ambitious plan, and it'll be fascinating to see how it unfolds in the years to come.
It will. And it's a reminder that cybersecurity is no longer just a niche issue. It affects all of us.
So as we wrap up, I want to leave our listeners with a question to ponder. In this rapidly evolving digital world, what role do you think individuals should play in creating a more secure online future?
Something to think about. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
And until next time, stay curious and stay safe online.